There's always a culture in every business. There's usually a good one or a bad one. I'm not a fan of the culture of ping pong tables, snacks every day, and having all these material things. A good culture to me is a place that people get really excited to just go to work. Training, good education, good leadership, want to put on a uniform and have the swag gear and represent their brand, and they're proud of their business.
In this episode, we're talking with Tommy Cole from McFarland Stanford. Tom is an executive coach, and today we're going to speak about how to grow your business, company culture, and being disciplined with your calendar. We also talk about when is the right time to hire in your office and how that can impact your business. This podcast is all about how to grow your business, and if you're at 300K or 800K, you're not going to want to miss it. Let's get started. Well, Tom, thanks for joining us today. Why don't we get started with a little bit of your history and how you got into the game?
Oh, history. Do we have
lots of time?
We have a lot of time. I love to brag about the history and wherever I've been. Man, I went to school at Texas Tech University, small school in West Texas, and I had to make a decision. It was landscape architecture or architecture. And I chose landscape architecture because of the golf course and being outside. And I said, this is the direction we'll go, College of Ag. 5-year program, and we started out with 76 students and graduated with 14. And I graduated. I said, hey, man, I've accomplished something.
Right. It's impressive.
So we rock and rolled, and I had 2 job interviews in Phoenix, Arizona. And I said, I'm going to pack up my truck and trailer. I had a small little mobile wash business in college.
Okay.
And I said, if I don't land a job, I'll just wash cars and start a business. Well, 2 interviews. One landed me a job at a landscape architecture firm, small firm in downtown Phoenix. And I just started crushing as a landscape designer and working in Southern California, Northern California, and Arizona. And that was good. Lots of great experience doing some crazy installations and high-end residential. And funny story is, coming from a small town in Texas, I was now living in Phoenix and working in Southern California, the whole Santa Barbara market.
Amazing.
And I built an $80,000 model for a beach house, loaded up in a Tahoe and drove it from Phoenix to Southern California to present to the client.
Right on.
And I'm like, what am I doing right now with this $80,000 model? It's insane. Anyway, so fast forward many years, I did that for 5-6 years and then moved back to the great state of Texas and got more into the construction installation side. I kind of was standing behind a desk and drawing for the wee hours of the night wasn't sort of my personality.
Right.
And so I jumped full throttle into the install side, working for a couple of large excavation civil contractors for several years, doing $200 million plus. Learned a lot about project management and how to facilitate all the ins and outs of installing a job. Did a lot of great projects all over Oklahoma, Texas, and Arkansas. And then I jumped in, and this is kind of moving into the McFarland Stanford ways, worked for a company in Dallas that did high-end residential. And me and the 3 other business partners in McFarland Stanford all worked there at the same time. And I spent 9 years, started out as a project manager, and worked my way up to vice president of construction, and got a ton of experience, great company, worked for a lot of great people. And I'll never forget my first install was, a $1.5 million residential job, and they go, well, don't screw it up. I said, all right, let's go. And then we worked together for a number of years, and then eventually kind of changed gears and went into McFarland Stanford and started this group. And I was the last of the 4 to join. I didn't think I was cut out for a sort of executive coach, sort of consulting. I didn't feel like I'd had enough experience, and so got a little more experience. And eventually joined the team, and here we are.
Amazing. Yeah, I've been following along for quite a few years now, and I've seen you speak many times. But maybe for the audience, can you just explain a little bit more about what you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting, and we consider ourselves just the back office of a landscape business. We don't talk about certain trees to install and, buy this truck because we're sponsored by a truck company. It's not about that. It's about if you envision when you got into the landscape business, right, there's a passion for being outdoors, a passion with working with your hands, sculpting and building and being creativity. Maintenance was a good part of your business, whether it install or somehow you got in with a truck and just moving, right? And that's the fun part, is sort of working with the crew, be out in the field all day. But then as your business evolves into, $500,000 or $1 million, you're like, what is the next step? I don't know what to do. And I think McFarland Stanford created a little of a niche to say, and we can offer some services to help you guys out. Like bookkeeping, which is great. So we work with a lot of small businesses, just getting your books correct.
Right.
A standard charge of accounts, how to learn and read a P&L statement, a balance sheet, the basics of running a business. So we have a bookkeeping team that just super smart individuals that help manage your book and kind of teach you and coach you about financials. So that's one arm. Another arm is we do a lot of recruiting all over the country. And so we recruit for managers and above. Mm-hmm. So project manager and account manager and operations and office managers to COOs to CEOs, that thing. And so we find people all over the country, network with them, stay in touch with them, and boom, we place people. And we're only focused in the landscape industry. We also do, which I'm super proud of, is our peer group program. It's the most
I've
dominant.
Seen that. It seems very
feature.
heavy.
It's kind of our funnel into our program, and it's fascinating. I got to give a shout out to Mr. Marty Grunder that started the peer group program 20 plus years ago. He had a vision of bringing in similar sized companies and learning from peers and learning their failures and their strengths of what worked and what didn't work. And many years ago, McFarland Stanford became strategic partners with the Grow Group. And we said, let's rock and roll with this peer group idea. And now we're at 21 plus peer groups and 200 plus members across the country. And a peer group is a group of 10 to 12 business owners that get into the program. They get to see everyone else's business and what the facility looks like and the trucks. And then they get to interview the team and help them grow. And it's not just about top line at the end of the day. It's about how do you evolve as a team, and when do you hire your next manager, and how do you do open book management and financials, and how do you do marketing? It's just so much to run a business outside of a startup of a landscape company. And so, we do a lot of mergers and acquisitions. We do some financial health assessments. We do a lot of private coaching on sales and operations and marketing and big leadership projects, and that sort of thing. So kind of visuals as the back office, the tricky part, not the pretty part. We kind of put a rug on the stuff that we don't know. Where McFarland Stanford can help you guys out.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And I think, in our industry, most guys come from the field, so not often do they have much experience with the back end. Yeah. And it's certainly, I was there 17 years ago, and it was a struggle for me, and probably wasted 5 or 6 years not having the support that we could have used. Yeah. Because at the time you just don't know, right? You just don't know any different.
You don't know.
Do you think there's a magic number? Is it $500,000 or?
Well, we see everything, but I do see a lot of interest in the $1 million mark, because. That's at the point where you're starting to hire your first or second manager of some sort. And you're like, what is it? Is it someone like me? Well, or is it a maintenance person? Is it an install person? Is it an office person? Admin? Like that's where everything runs through the owner at $1 million.
Right.
I mean, everything: marketing, sales, project management, invoice, and it's. What happens is some people start to figure it out, but they don't know if it's the right step. So they'll hire someone, they'll hire another person, but then I'm still in the middle of it. I'm still, sort of the bottleneck. So that $1 million mark is usually a striking point. What I find really fascinating is the young generations are jumping in quicker.
Yes, agreed.
You probably see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But my generation was like, I'm hard-headed,
right?
As all get out, and I got to do it on my own, and I got to screw it up 7 times before I figure it out.
Right.
This new generation is like, I don't have time for that. I am going to literally partner myself up with several people that are smarter than me or just have experience shares, and that's why they join this peer group or they reach out to coaching, or they go to industry events. And they want more information on how to do it. So that $1 million mark. Then you also have the people who are going, well, I don't know, man. I still think I know what's going on. And, they've hit that 3 to 5 million. They've got a few managers, but once again, they're still at the same point as the $1 million company. Mm-hmm. It's like, what's my next step?
Yeah, they're still touching everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, a lot of that, and people are more so that they're willing to jump out there a little bit more now than they were 5-10 years ago, which is great.
I agree. I agree. And I think it's such a struggle as a young entrepreneur at that $1 million mark or hiring that other overhead.
Yeah.
You're right. You just can't get your head around the expense.
Yeah.
And you think, well, if I get a little more help here, I can still do that.
Yeah.
And I see it all the time. It's a big hurdle for a lot of guys. And it's more of a mental hurdle than anything else. I think once they actually have that person and see how much relief they get from it and more time for focusing on
the next step after that is, okay, so now I got my person, but what do I do?
Right.
So like,
how do I train them?
How do I train and how do I work with them? We're a huge fan of one-on-one meetings every single week to keep the momentum going all the time. And that's hard to structure. That's hard to commit to an hour. But if, quite frankly, your team is your biggest asset in your business. It's not the piece of equipment. It's not the the shop or anything like that. It's your team. And that could you imagine spending 1 hour a week every single week for 52 weeks straight with your 2 or 3 direct reports? What kind of momentum you would get moving forward? So it's even you hire on a person or two, a manager that's $60,000 to $100,000 a year. But what do I do with that person?
Right.
And so it comes down to job clarity, their role, their KPIs, how are they being scorecarded, how's their culture, how are they, bonding with the team? I mean, I didn't get into landscaping because of that.
Right.
There was no way. I was just going to draw and do cool stuff out in the field. Like, I didn't know I was going to sit here and have the ability to coach or build teams.
Well, and I think that's kind of the evolution too, right, of an entrepreneur. Like, you kind of you don't know all those things at the beginning, but then as you get into it and you get some success with it, it becomes a little bit addicting.
Yeah.
Right. When you start to educate yourself and hit events and seminars and online information, like there's just so much you can digest.
Yeah.
And all the information's out there. It's just a matter of making the time to get it.
Yeah.
You mentioned culture there. What are some of the things that you guys promote as far as trying to help companies with culture and create that, returning staff for the seasonal businesses and, because it really does come from the top down.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes a struggle for a lot of companies.
It's hard. There's always a culture in every business.
There is.
Yeah.
Yes.
But let's just break that down. There's usually a good one or a bad one. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a fan of the culture of ping pong tables and snacks every day, and Cokes and drinks and having all these material things. Mm-hmm. That's not a good culture to me. A good culture to me is a place that people get really excited to just go to work.
Right.
They go to work. They feel proud of their company. They feel like they have a say in the company. Their voice is heard. I also believe that people want more than just the basic of putting in a job. Mm-hmm. And so a culture means, they want some training. Training is such a big word, but Absolutely. They want to be trained and they want to know what it is to take to be good at their role. They want to have good leadership and management. Mm-hmm. Why most people quit because of that reason, right?
Yes.
So training, good education, good leadership. They want a strong company that's financially savvy, right? So open book management. Mm-hmm. They want to put on a uniform and have the swag gear and represent their brand, and they're proud of their business. They want to show off to their friends and family of all the proud work that they do. So, yes, I'm a fan of having certain extracurricular activities, whether it be, once a quarter barbecue that is a really big deal and it's on the calendar every single quarter and the entire team knows it. You don't all of a sudden wake up and go, well, let's have some food delivered today. Right. There's something to look forward to.
It's an event.
It's an event every quarter. You have your annual holiday party or your annual town hall meeting where breakfast is served and we learn about the business. You're onboarding as a new team member. It starts there. Mm-hmm. Like, how was your experience in their interview? Did it take 3 weeks to get a phone call back? Well, maybe because everyone's too busy.
Right.
Or was it nice and clean and you knew the next step, the next direction? We also do 3 interviews. So this is step one of 3. This is step 2 of 3. You officially hire someone. Did you give them a official offer letter? Even for a crew member, it needs an offer letter, right? Mm-hmm. So how was the onboarding experience? And then you get the offer, then you sign, and it's day 1. What happens on day 1 on most landscape companies?
They get thrown into the fire.
And said, and the owner's expectation is through the roof. Because according to your resume, you can do all these things, right? And we're like, and then like 3 months go by and we're like, what was I thinking of hiring this guy? But yet I did nothing
right.
to onboard this manager or crew leader or crew member. And so I'm a fan of a week or 2 of getting to know the company and getting to know every single role in that business, office and accounting and marketing, and how the install teams work and how the maintenance teams work, and the pest control, and the plant healthcare teams, and the office and the shop and the gate codes, and all. Like, your laptop and your phone and your swag should be ready to go day 1, right? And then there's a week long where you're listening and shadowing everyone in the company. Like, to me, now I got a good foundation. I got a clear job description. I've got a good defined role, what I'm going to be measured on.
Yeah. Who am I accountable to?
Who am I accountable to? Here I go for any questions or comments or concerns. If I had that as a landscape company, I'm like, let's rock and roll. Like, now you're excited about something, and the expectation is set from day 1.
Right.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of great info in there too, guys. Because I think culture, we were actually talking with Mike from Creekside last night about culture as well. And it's one of those things that needs to be effortless, but you also need to focus on it.
Sure.
Right? It needs to be authentic, and it needs to be promoted, celebrated, all those types of things. But I think there was a lot of good information on that list you just gave about tools that can definitely help with it. What do you feel like the industry is like right now? Like, just an overall perspective of where it's going, where it's come from in the past, past 5 years is tough because COVID was a little unordinary.
Yeah.
But, in the past 10 years and kind of where you see it in the next 10.
That's interesting. First off, I was telling someone yesterday at the convention, I said, this is about the coolest industry you could ever be in.
It's pretty fun.
I'll tell you, because if you think of another industry that you can go out there and put smile on people's faces.
It's so rewarding.
It's instant gratification. Now, don't get me wrong. There's probably some good serviceable type companies out there. Like, there's some good groups, but there's nothing fascinating about landscape. And I would tell you, it's the industry that's almost the most difficult at the same time. Very rewarding, but very difficult. Very rewarding meaning you get to see, literally from concept to finish and continue maintenance and beautifying the space. But the hardest part is all the avenues you got to deal with. I mean, I feel like you're getting slapped with a pool noodle in the face every day.
Right.
You wake up and just start getting hit. And it's weather, it's perishable goods, it's the labor force, it's inflation. Oh, by the way, you need to know electrical and plumbing and hardscape and pools. And by the way, we have plants too. And then you got to make it green year round all the time. No diseases, it's just perfect. And I'm like, man, but that's the rewarding part, is you get to take a lot of these challenges and turn them into some great opportunities and learn along the way. So this industry is fascinating. I've been in it since day 1. 21 years. I love it. We've evolved into the industry getting better and better and better. And for you and I to sit here this morning and do this doesn't happen. It was not happening 10 years ago.
Right.
So you had to go get your education and drive or fly somewhere and go to these places and then go back to your business and just hopefully it worked out. And now there's so many platforms and things to listen to with the internet and social media that you can constantly follow. We do remote video calls and private coaching all over the world. I mean, that's fascinating to get some advice from people. So the industry is getting better and better. I will tell you, COVID sort of threw a wrench in everything, and in a good way. And I think in a good way. Nobody knew what to do at that point. I think a lot of people really relied on their peers on what else is doing. What's essential business? Can we keep working? Can we not? And I think a lot of people relied on the peer group program to say, what are you doing in your area? How's this working? How's it not working? But I also think, we went from the no sales almost, right, for that awkward time to all of a sudden everyone wanted landscape. Record. Which was a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is sales are up and there's tons of work. You just basically put a price on it and you go put it in the ground because everybody wanted it. What happened is we got operational sloppy. And because sales are through the roof and skyrocketing, you're just slamming stuff on the ground, not paying attention to your numbers. So now we're in this awkward time, this challenging time of sales are not like what they were the last 4 years, right? You're really now having to go and sell a product and provide the value of your company more than just price. You got to provide your team what you're going to do. You got to set the expectations. You got to communicate very clearly on all that. So now you have to focus on your operations, right? Where I think we just put a rug over it because sales are through the roof. So this is the opportunity right now to dial in your operations and your sales more so than ever. Listen, there's plenty of work out there still. I don't think anything's changing for the unforeseeable future.
Right.
You just got to dig a little deeper, and you got to work for it a little bit more because there's not signing contracts on the hoods of cars.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that, again, some great advice there for people that are struggling to close because, a lot of the people that we've talked to, are really struggling with, there's lots to quote, but it's so competitive out there right now. And a lot of companies are really likely doing work for no money or losing money to keep teams busy and that type of thing. But it's an interesting time, and certainly after COVID, and I really feel for the businesses that started in 19 or 20 and had that quick ascend and maybe didn't have all their systems in place and their operational strategies and waste control and all that sort of stuff. So
that's an interesting point. If I don't be discouraged, you just really got to look at your business right now and go, the number one thing is what kind of value do I provide? And so that needs to be pushed. I've had clients come to me and go, man, we lost that $500,000 job we're supposed to start next week. The rug got pulled out. Very great company to work for, or one of them, they're in my peer group, and they've got a great reputation, a great brand, they do great work, and then the rug got pulled out immediately. And so the owner, instead of, really bad-mouthing the client and the whole process of all that, the husband and wife duo had to really step back and go, I don't think I'm providing the value more than just that number on a piece of paper. What do? We also provide, we have, a professional group of people. We're all wearing uniforms. We all have logoed trucks. We have communication every week. We provide, a great team to install your product based on all these referrals, right? And so the value is there. But you've got to express it because when people look at 2 or 3, 4 prices, but why are you higher? Well, because we do this, this, and this, right? And I don't think we've had that challenge yet in our businesses to say we need value. Why? So that was an interesting concept with one of my peer group members. So provide value.
Yeah, I think, and one of the other things that we've talked to people about at the Wealthy Landscaper is, emphasizing all of those items and talking about safety and insurance and install techniques. And I also am a big believer if you can get people to other projects, like projects that you've completed and show them why your work is different. There's a lot of value in that. Switching gears again, design. You obviously know a lot about design. Do you find that a lot of your clients have their own design services, or are they still, one of the things we find in certain areas is guys struggle to again get to that next barrier and hire a designer. And I feel like it's one of the best sales tools that you could have, and certainly to have it in-house, or even if it's a sub-trade. It just creates so much more value for your business.
Yeah. I would say if you're starting out, subcontract it. Okay. There's a lot of freelance designers out there that have the tools, the knowledge, the experience. So if you've got a couple of projects that you're looking at and you need a design, find someone in your local market and hire that out, subcontract, put together a design proposal, which I'm a huge fan for a design proposal and charging for it.
Yeah,
okay.
definitely.
Because don't get me on that sort of tangent as far as not charging for design.
Big
That
mistake.
completely disvalues the landscape designer and landscape architecture industry, because there's a lot of value provided there. So get them a design proposal and sign off and move with that, and get a few things, projects under your belt working with a designer. Then you need to make an option is this side of the business growing? Great. Maybe I need to hire that subcontractor designer. Maybe I need to look for someone to come out here and bring their tools. Design sales is the very first image of your brand in your business. You got to have someone that can represent your brand. And the first time you meet is all the signals.
Yeah, key.
It's so key, right? Are they on time? Do they have a nice professionalism for them? Do they show up prepared? And the other thing that you want to make sure with your sales design person is did they accomplish the goals that they originally asked them to do?
Yeah, check the boxes.
Right, because I asked them to come here and solve the drainage problem, but now you're proposing a fire pit and pergola and some drainage. And I'm like, that sounds great, but let's solve the problem, because that's what we're in the business to do, is solving problems. And oh, by the way, once you do that, then we can provide additional things along the way. But I feel like a lot of times we're wanting to create this grand master plan of things, and it kind of turns people off, because literally I just need this item solved.
Right.
So going into design, I think if you can bring that in-house, it's extremely value. But start out the subcontractor way. I've been in several companies. I mean, myself, I was a designer for a long time. There's tons of value in, now there's so many features and programs that are great, but now we're going to a whole nother dynamic, which is the whole AI feature of creating designs for you, which is coming around the corner super fast, where you could bring that into your company as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think it just gives you that instant credibility when you show up as well.
Yeah.
Right, and to be able to return an estimate, and I think that's another good advantage when you're getting that. Hey, we've got two different prices, and to be able to show them the design and the cross sections of the details, and this is how much aggregate we're putting in underneath, and this is how we do our compaction, and really show them why it's different.
How oftentimes did you go to a landscape company and you work there, and the client has this expectation and the landscaper has this one?
Yes.
Because there's no design.
Yes.
Because we as landscapers understand it. We get it. We're in it every single day. But that client expectation is a little bit different. And so I don't care how small the project is or how large. There should always be some design that says, here is where everything going. And if you can't agree on that from the start, then we need to figure it out. I'm a huge fan. Could it be on, can it be a hand sketch? Can it be just some bubble diagrams of where things are and we can narrow it down? 100%, because guess what? I now have to take the vision of that designer and that client and transfer all that to the operations team. Right? Because otherwise, if that doesn't happen, we can't do the install.
They got to mesh.
Right. Or we can't do the maintenance property well, right? Because we don't mesh. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that the bandwidth for customers improves so much when they have the confidence that this is what I'm getting. They know what it looks like. They know what the dimensions are. They know how you're going to do the work. Because I think without design, it just leaves too much room for conflict.
Yeah.
Especially when there's an extra or something's additional. Well, I thought that was included, or I didn't, it's not on the plan. And so to be able to have that clean conversation and a great
and it goes
package.
to the estimate too.
Yes.
Right. So you got the design or concept, and you got the estimate, and don't be scared to set the expectations up front. Okay. So do we need to show pictures of every single plant, sort of a plant palette, right? That shows it. Maybe it shows it in the nursery.
Yes.
Like in a container of what it looks like, but yet it'll get to this mature size. Because we know plants, but do they? Right? Everyone's got a green thumb. Yeah, right? Everyone thinks they have some sort of
totally. It's very true, eh? It's very true.
You know, like I hate roses because I walked by a rose bush when I was a kid and I got stabbed in the leg 17 times. Well, that doesn't make the shrub bad. It's just you had a bad experience.
Yeah.
And so don't be scared to set the expectations up front. This is when we expect a deposit. This is when their time frame. This is what we're going to install. And the more you set up front, you front load that expectation, the rest just falls into place.
Yeah, we often say that at Muskoka Landscapers too. You know, if the customer knows what they're getting, when they're getting it, and how much it is, it's smooth sailing.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I'll tell you a funny story. One of my first projects I worked on, very large, expensive, high-end residential. I said, I'm going to try something. I said, I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to do something. I'm going to test this. And I told the client on day one of the install, I said, I can guarantee you myself or my team will screw up. Guarantee. We're all human. We can make a bad decision. We forgot to tell someone. Something's going to happen. But I can guarantee you, watch us, and we'll correct it then and even better.
Right.
So now you've even set the expectation that
something could go wrong.
Something's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
And I will tell you what happened. There's two instances exactly. We didn't close the gate, and the dog got out. Right, very common.
Yes.
Yeah. Whew, boy, that yellow lab was running through the neighborhood, and I was frantic, and we were freaking out, but we got the dog and all that. You know, so at least there's a level expectation that, listen, we're all human. Things could go wrong. I could miss something on the plan, 100%. But, man, front load those expectations with the client. Man, it just does. I think we're so concerned to say certain things with clients.
Right.
Up front, what if they look weird, or what if I kind of don't? Well, that's what you need to know in your business,
and they need to know too.
And sometimes it may not work out. If you can't come to an agreement on the front end, then maybe that's a blessing in disguise that it didn't work out.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. I think the last thing I wanted to kind of touch on, and more so, you got me thinking about it earlier. You mentioned watching your son's football game online last night, and I can see that you're married. I think young entrepreneurs often get, sucked into this, if I work harder, I'm going to be more successful. Yeah. And they tend to forget, whether it's their time at home or time with their kids or the football game or the soccer game or breakfast, whatever it is. What sort of things do you do or have you brought into your life? Because I know how busy you are and you're traveling all the time. And what are your kind of go-to things as far as like scheduling your calendar and fitness and trying to just cram it all in? Any tips for guys out there?
Oh, man, I could write a novel on this if someone would just capture some of these things. I believed it. I was raised very well. My mom and dad are the best. We didn't have a whole lot of money. There wasn't a lot of money for extracurricular activities. My mom and dad worked extremely hard, very blue collar. And my dad often said, you just put in the work. There's no politics involved. There's no, kissing up to your boss. You just put in the work and put your head down and grind. And I grind. I have the ultimate discipline and focus in my top 5 strengths. And I will grind and grind and grind to the point where I think I grind so hard. And so I would say there for a period of time, I would never do PTO. That's just what I was raised. My parents never took days off. They had all these extra days at some point down the road. So first off, take PTO.
Yes.
You got to get away at some point. Often don't believe there's a whole work-life balance.
I'm the same.
Okay, great. No wonder we're sort of.
I always love Mark's Life by Design.
Life by Design. And so you're an entrepreneur with a business. There's no 8 to 5. You have to understand that as a business owner. Now, you also have the freedom to kind of go as you please. So if you want to go catch a game, go catch a game. You got a doctor's appointment, go. You want to work a Sunday and Saturday, great. I would say, though, there's no work-life balance. You just intertwine it in your entire company. Every time I travel, I let my kids know where I'm going. What's Louisville? My 9-year-old daughter asks. Well, It's Louisville. Where is that? It's in Kentucky. So I'll tell you 2 facts about Louisville, Kentucky. Home of the Louisville Slugger, right?
Yeah.
And the Louisville Cardinals football team. Like, I didn't say bourbon. But, there's something, and I always let them know where I'm going and what I'm doing, because that's just a fascinating part. Like, I always check in with them every single day. How'd it go? So there's no work-life balance. I would say fall into a disciplined schedule. Okay, my schedule is I get up early and I go work out. End of story. I'm going to, non-negotiable, when I travel, when I'm home. I don't care if it's a 2-mile walk or weights or something, but it's something to get my body moving. I'm on a plane, I'm in hotels, all that. Also, I still got to wrestle my 13-year-old son to let him know who's sort of boss and in charge.
Yeah.
That's kind of a big
Never
motivation
ends.
for me. Yeah. So have a disciplined schedule, and whatever that. Sometimes it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon for some people. Some of it's 8 o'clock at night. Okay, cool, whatever it is. But have intention with your day. If you can come up with 3 things that you need to accomplish today, I think that's a huge deal. Pre-kids, I would just work.
Yeah.
I just work, and whenever I left is whenever I left, right? I feel like I was not really productive. Because at some point I'll go home and I'll see my wife, and then we'll eat some dinner and we'll go to bed.
Right.
Nothing. When kids came, I had to leave at a certain time, right? Now, 5 years old and below, a little negotiable. When they hit sports and extracurricular activities, I force myself to be in town. When I was in town, I'm forced to leave to go to see their events. But in that 8, 9, whatever time frame that I'm working diligently on the business and being very productive so that I can leave at some point and go see my kids' activities. And they're involved 7 days a week with all kinds of activities. Because I do miss a lot during our travel. So when I'm home, I'm intentional about going to those places. There's a deadline, there's a start and stop. So be intentional with your day.
Yeah, I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
And I think it's just something that people got to buy into and know that it's a big part of being an entrepreneur, because otherwise you can miss a lot.
Yeah, I like to work on things. My top strength is significance. I guess that's why I'm sitting here today, right? You can just work and work and work, but what are things that you're going to do in your day that's going to move the needle, right? You sitting behind the laptop still doing estimates when you've got a 3-man team is probably not moving the needle much, because you're a control freak, which we're all control freaks in this business, right?
At some level,
for
sure.
Oh, my gosh, don't get you started. But that's not going to really move the needle. Like, what is going to move something drastically that I need to work on now? And so as a business coach now, you got to get out of the business to work on the business. That's the biggest thing to take away, right? Get to trade conferences like these, really learn in, get back to your office, and what did you learn? Right? We have pages and notes and things to do, but you need to take those notes and prioritize. What can I do now?
Yeah.
What can I delegate to the team?
Where's the low-hanging fruit?
But there's things that on my list that's 3 years from now.
Yes.
But don't like put it off to the side, but don't lose track of it, right? Discipline is the thing that you need to wake up, have intention, and do it every single day. It's no different on a Saturday or Sunday as well. My intention is to get things done, and I'm going to relax for 3 hours for kids. Okay?
Yeah.
So it's all about intention and discipline every day.
Amazing. I think that's an awesome way to end it.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a great piece of advice.
Yeah.
But thanks so much for coming on, Tom.
Absolutely.
It was a pleasure to have you. It was great to see you again.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll see you again this winter somewhere.
I'm sure it was an impromptu introduction yesterday. It was great, and I follow you guys and listen to a lot of your content. So it's just sort of a law of attraction to meet up and get this thing going.
Yeah, amazing. Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Take care.